Hey everybody, this is Ray Flick, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool, and we're going to be taking a look at the season finale of Freeform Siren from Dean White and Eric Wald, their fantasy mermaid action thriller series, which we've been doing recap and reviews this entire season. This is the season finale, 10th episode, Aftermath, and let me start off by saying, yeah, that's probably the best way for me to put it. It suffered the problem that I think a lot of season ones suffer, especially when you don't know what your fate's going to be going into a season two. This episode seemed to just want to soften everything up, but still plant seeds. It's that awkward best of both worlds that you try to achieve in a season finale when you don't know if there's going to be a second season. So, and again, maybe there's a little backstory to this I'm not aware of. Maybe they were aware of ahead of time. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because you've had 9 really good, strong episode run, and the season finale just kind of left me shrugging a little bit, to be honest with you. And I'm going to give you a quick recap just to give you an idea of some of the things I'm talking about as I go through, because again, I didn't feel like it was a finale that was worthy of the previous episodes, but I can't fault the series for that, because I think there's so much potential, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. But essentially, in this episode, we have Donna, who was wounded. She dies, and because of her connection to Decker, Decker kills himself. So we've lost 2 mandatory characters right there. We've established the connection between the mermaids and the song, and that also plays out with Ben, who takes a boat, goes out, almost finds himself drowning because he hears what he claims is Rin's song being sung to him and driving him into the water, which is a little weird because Rin doesn't show up until later on to essentially save him. So we have that in play. We have Helen stepping in, and again, I think doing the whole, let me give you a lot of extra mythology just in case we get renewed, but if not, it answers some questions about a mermaid living amongst human graveyard area that happens when mermaids stay on ground and don't go back. Again, I like the role Helen played, and this just seemed like, hey, let's have everybody come out so we can do a little explanation as to where everything is going. We have Sheriff Bishop and Ted, this whole idea where, again, Ted being the holier than thou around the town has always kind of bothered me a little bit, but this issue with him and Maddie's dad, the sheriff, I wasn't buying into it because it just felt like it was also another scenario like, well, now we're going to have the town council find out, or somebody else is going to have to find out, and now it's, again, I understand it, and I think it sets up things nicely, but it just ties into my feeling this finale was just a lot of like, hey, if you're new us, this is what you get. But otherwise, we need to kind of leave this in some type of soft area for the people of Bristol Cove in case this ends up being it. Calvin and Xander, there was an issue with them being roommates and Calvin wanting his girlfriend to move in, but apparently Xander has had a relationship with Calvin's girlfriend in the past. Xander clearly gets around because now this is Maddie and now her. And it leads into a weird thing where we see now Calvin's calling the local news to try to get them to come out to Bristol Cove as if he's going to give them the heads up about the mermaid story. We read enough National Enquirers and things like that to know that you can pretty much excuse that stuff away. Plus, we know if the government's involved, they're not going to let the press around. So it's going to be one of those instances where I think everybody's going to be kind of on the same page. Plus, it just was kind of a jerk move, and I didn't feel it really fit his character. Just like with this episode, I felt like Xander was just walking around with a lot of like namaste, kumbaya type after everything. And it just, again, in one of these instances where I think we're just trying to force things, like even, Rin leaving at the end to be by herself. It's like, but we know it's not going to go in that direction. And even the whole idea about Ben and Maddie at the crossroads. And I want to say this too. My other issue with the episode is that Maddie just really was not portrayed well in this episode. I'm not saying she doesn't have emotion because I think she's done a great job all season balancing, the factual with the supernatural, with emotion, with being serious. This episode, she was just coming across as just the jealous girlfriend, and I wasn't buying it because it just wasn't what I felt like we got from her the entire season. But again, I chalk this all up to the idea that season finales are tough. First seasons, unless you have a 2-season commitment right from the start, or like 2-3 episodes in, hey, guess what, we're going to be getting a renewal. It's really tough, and I don't know. This was a really bumpy landing for a series that otherwise has been doing a really excellent job. So finale, it hurt a little bit. It suffered from the problem that a lot of season 1 finales suffer from. So unfortunately to say that. Siren season 1 overall was an amazingly promising series. I don't feel like it ended on a particularly strong note, but I think that has to do with the fact of not knowing that you're going to get renewed, so I'm willing to excuse that. But overall, I think we got 9 strong, solid episodes for a series that, to be honest with you, I wasn't sure. I don't want to say I wasn't expecting much from, but I wasn't expecting a lot from it, or really even what I was expecting from it. I kind of stumbled into it, and it turned out to be a very pleasant surprise. There are a lot of reasons why I could give, but I wanted to highlight a couple things. First, let's start with the obvious. Rin, Eline Powell. This is the role that's the make or break of the series. Everybody talks about the action and the special effects and everything else. If I don't buy into Powell's performance as Rin, I'm not buying the series. And I have to tell you, for the way she portrays it, other actresses in other ways could have made the character annoying, obnoxious, someone you really weren't going to be able to connect with, even from the way she speaks. Powell did a job of being able to get us to connect with a character and very early on, and feel like while she may be new to being on human land, she wasn't weak, and that she had power, and we got to see that as the season built along. And I think, again, Powell's performance really sold me on the series. Not that the supporting cast hasn't done a great job, but I think when all is said and done, it really came down to Powell's Rin, and she's really knocked it out of the ballpark this season. Even again in the season finale, she was really a bright, strong start for it. The writing and dialogue overall, again, there are a couple cliche things we run into every now and then. The government, the doctor, the scientists with the hesitations about if what he's doing is right. But overall, I just feel like they didn't stretch things out. People got to find out about the mermaids in very sensible, reasoned time periods, not just totally blind to what's going on until 9 episodes in. I thought the dialogue and the exchanges between people were honest and were open. I think, especially with Xander dealing with his father's death, I thought was very excellently done, and an amazing job from everybody on all parts. So again, credit to the writers, credit to the actors who are portraying that dialogue in a realistic manner. Bristol Cove is filled with characters that we care about and we believe live together and have lived in that town for a long time. And I think we set a good, strong precedent the first season when we have characters that we connect with. I've told you, it's always a good sign when I see them interacting to the point where by second episode I'm starting to know the actors and the characters, and sometimes even mixing up the two. The look of the series, from the way the mer people are presented to Bristol Cove to the government facilities, I buy it. It doesn't look like it's being done on a set. It looks real. It has a much more expensive look to it when you know it's not super expensive. And I give the creative behind this a lot of credit for that. It looks like it has a very Bristol Cove has a very, I'd say, Castle Rock light look to it is probably the best way to look at it from that standpoint. But the visuals I just thought were amazing. I think the creepiness of the scenes out on the water give this sense of you're in literally another world, which we are, but it just really comes across as if we're on a completely other planet. And again, I think there's another aspect that it just really bought into from the very beginning. I've been saying all along, for you as you've been watching the reviews, that I feel like this has strong Buffy the Vampire Slayer tendencies, and I want to continue on with that because I think you have good writing, good dialogue. Going into a second season, what I'd like to see is expand the mythology. We've already gotten a little bit of that from the season finale scene where Helen is at the gravesite and explaining the backstory of Bristol Cove and the things that are going on there. But honestly, I'm not saying turn into investigators or things like that. But I'd like to see, be cool if Bristol Cove was almost kind of this Hellmouth type place that was just like this be-all, end-all attractive of the strange, the odd, the fantastical, and the supernatural. I'd like to see Powell be able to use her mermaid abilities going up against other adversaries that aren't just mer people or humans. And again, I think we'd like to see Ben and Maddie, being able to apply a lot more of their scientific skills. Not that they don't have a lot storyline plots dangling to go into the second season with, but that kind of shift in tone I thought would be very, very cool. I'd really like to see that. But overall, I got to say, I'm very excited for Freeform's Siren second season. Definitely worthy of a second season pickup. I thought actually it would have been picked up earlier than that. And I think 16 episodes are going to give them a chance to really start developing a lot storylines a lot deeper and a lot further out. And I'm curious to see, now that we have Donna and now that we have Decker gone, who are we going to be getting to come on board? Because with 16 episodes, we know they're going to be adding to the cast. So I'm very interested to see how that's going to go. But again, Freeform Siren Season 1, 2 major thumbs up. I would give it a solid 8, especially for its first season. Definitely worth catching up on if you missed any episodes, and definitely worth checking out as it goes into its second season.